Digest, and if you haven't already noticed, you are listening to the dulcet tones of Indy instead of Ryan Piercy this morning. You'll have to forgive me because Chris and I have just had a little bit of a mini drama just 5 seconds before go live. So if you see any kind of bloody nose, you'll have to just bear with me because I'm coming in fresh and live at the same time. But aside from that, I am joined this morning, as I've already nodded and given a hint to, Chris Downing from Sage. Chris, how are you this morning? I know I've caught you while you're running across London and going from one thing to the next.
I'm very well, thank you. It's just a typical Thursday, isn't it? Trying to do too many things in a short period of time, but that's what keeps us alive, doesn't it?
Exactly. And it's half-term week as well.
It's
Halloween. So maybe this is a Halloween nosebleed,
Could
actually.
Be, yeah.
I could
Saves the makeup.
Yeah, I could have really played that out and just said this is, and just, done a little bit of a smearing and then said, well, this is like, my Halloween outfit coming in early. But anyway, we are here not to talk about that. We're here to talk about Sage. We're here to talk about MTD in for IT, and for the fact that Sage has made an integration into Monzo, or Monzo's made an integration into Sage, should I say, and it's making it a lot easier for MTD, and it isn't going backwards. So I think we're clear on that. It's happening. But Chris, maybe you can tell us in your words a little bit, because I know that we covered it in this week's podcast, and we wanted to talk a little bit more about the context of this, about the wider banking space in general, about Sage's technology when it comes to the open general ledger and the headless APIs, the embedded services that Sage is looking to deploy more of in the space. And we're also looking to talk about some of the other applications that Sage has acquired, and whether there will be some more that kind of fit better into the mold for sole traders and for small businesses over the coming year. So there's quite a lot to cover. We've only got 28 minutes to go. So we'll start with the first one around Monzo, and just giving some context to those people that haven't already heard about this integration.
Yeah, so if you've not heard, there's a fantastic integration between Monzo and Sage. Effectively, what this means is the 700,000 business users using Monzo can, from early next year, be able to play with making taxes. And when I say play, actually integrate, work with, submit quarterly updates. Effectively, when you think about how small businesses react and also work with accountants, I wish they would work with accountants on day one. They don't. They have a bright idea, they start transacting in their bank account, but actually the missing piece there is bookkeeping. So the Monzo integration effectively means users can categorize their transactions, review, submit a quarterly update, but also more importantly, enables that collaboration with the accountant. So therefore, Monzo users will be able to surface their information with the accountant within Sage for Accountants, and therefore accountants will then also be able to support them in terms of recategorization, reviewing, and also submitting quarterly updates. Because the key thing, when you think about making tax digital, we consider those businesses over £50,000 turnover, they need a bookkeeping tool, don't they? They probably need to maintain a sales ledger. But actually, when we think about 27 and 28, and also just naturally where MTD and HMRC are going in terms of the digitization of businesses, is the fact that these business owners, they need something which they can work with where they're working. But also what it does mean, it gives the accountants the confidence that you're creating those good habits on day one, categorization and understanding of what bookkeeping may be, which then means when they present, or the business owner presents their homework to the accountant at the end of the year, the accountant's got a slightly easier workload to actually manage.
Absolutely. And from, coming in fresh and new to this, how's this different from some of the other work that you've done before as well with Tide and having Tide bank accounts?
Yeah, so if the work with Tide is very similar. So it's basically leveraging the power of our embedded services. So for the technical people out there, it's headless APIs. So if you imagine all the richness of being able to create a transaction, a sales invoice, be able to then submit information via the VAT return or under MTD in the future, Tide's approach was actually to consume our capabilities to file a VAT return, so the digitization. So when you think of transaction, it's a debit, it's a credit, you have details of the customer and the net and the VAT element. That's all captured in the background in Tide using Sage's technology, which effectively means when that business grows, you've got information already categorized in the right way. So if you think about it, Tide, Monzo. There are now other platforms very interested in using this type of technology.
Wow. And just on that note, in terms of like how many other use cases there might be, or how many other neobanks, I guess, that might also plug into this. So are we expecting to see a whole host more also move towards this within Sage? So it makes it a lot easier for existing businesses that perhaps have already made their choice of bank and don't want to migrate across to like a Monzo or a Thai?
Yes, definitely. And this is the whole point, is banks recognize that they need to improve the experience they provide their business bank relationships. So if you imagine, Monzo were the first people to enable tap to pay. So tap to pay is raising and sales invoice and getting paid faster. So we're seeing this already in the market, whether it's the larger mainstream traditional banks, the challenger banks, as we would like to call them, they're all improving the experience. But when it comes to compliance, whether it's VAT or MTD for income tax, that takes an awful lot of knowledge, experience, something which Sage has decades of, and therefore we bring that experience into the technology and then enable partners to consume it as well.
Nice. And when I think of like the strategy that I've seen some of the other GLs take, say for example, Xero, where they've had much more of a deeper integration to Stripe so that they can then roll out that type of the different types of services. I guess from what we're hearing, what we've seen Sage has been doing, it's a very vastly different approach. It's much more that you stick to the one side that is compliance and the enablement of compliance services. And then that connection, therefore, is with other third parties who are really just working on deepening their own payment services and making sure that they can enable things like, I guess, tap to pay or cross-border payments, etc., within the banking environment rather than in the Sage environment. Is that fair to say?
Well, I would say we're doing what Xero are doing plus more. So if you imagine, we already have the Stripe integration, we have automated allocation of maybe the receipts, the invoice. We also have tap to pay on the mobile application. So a small business owner using Sage Individual or Sage Accounting, it encourages them to use the technology in the mobile app. The key thing with what we're doing, we're actually taking our knowledge, our technology, and sharing with other players. Because the whole point is we want to encourage business owners, no matter where they are in their business journey, whether they're starting out or a couple of years in, to make their lives easier. Because visibility of financial information is the key. Business failure is usually because it's a lack of cash flow or a lack of awareness of profitability. So they can have that understanding, those nudges, those prompts, keeping on top of taxes, and more importantly, save for taxes. It avoids those troublesome times in December and January when you realize, I haven't saved for my tax bill. What should I do? You put a pause on your business. And really, this is going to encourage, let's say, investment, but also, let's say, confidence in terms of how businesses are going to perform over the years and getting ready for MTD.
Very nice. And just talking then more about the rollout of those types of features, the rollout of those types of technologies that are more fitting for small businesses, sole traders, etc. A few years ago, we saw Sage go on quite an acquisitions spree with Go Proposal, with Futurely, rather than sort of building a lot of the technology yourselves. There seemed to be a strategy of more like buying and then embedding those in. How does that sort of how does that fit now with Sage's roadmap? Is that still the same sort of plan? And are there specific features that you're wanting to focus more on within Sage that would then help empower more of the sole traders that you've seen at maybe like the kind of mid and large business level that can be pushed down, that they can benefit from and perhaps they haven't had the joy of benefiting from in the past?
Yeah, so like any technology platform, it's all about understanding what you should build, what you should buy, and who you should be partnering with. And when you think about receipt capture or scanning bank statements, auto entry was that natural acquisition. When you think about that need for accountants to review their pricing, get letter of engagement digitalized, and actually improve the value of their offering, Go Proposal was that natural player. And then when it comes to forecasting insights, Futurely again, which means then Sage can actually double down and invest in terms of what we're really, really good at. When you think about it, it's bookkeeping, Sage Accounting, payroll, online payroll solutions, and more importantly is the fact that we are now leading the charge in terms of AI, but also agentic AI. So when you think about that experience which we're trying to deliver, not only for the small business owner, but also the accountant, It's from the accountant's point of view, having that single window within their practice, be able to open up a Xero or QuickBooks or a Sage license in a single click from their practice management solution, be able to interact with Monzo data being surfaced in front of them, keep on top of all of the deadlines because we provide task and job management complementary, but also that seamless walkthrough in terms of compliance. But also, more importantly, when you think about the ever increasing bureaucracy accountants need to face, whether that's AML or KYC, obviously that's top of mind at the moment. It's a case of being able to deliver all that within the same platform, of which Go Proposal with their AML solution is supporting accountants as well. But clearly we are doing a huge investment and work in respect of agentic AI, especially with our MTD agent, which is going to support accountants.
Wow. And I thought we would make it a whole 10 minutes first without saying AI, but we just missed the 10-minute mark. So, yeah, I think this is a very interesting subject that we stumbled ourselves into. As more and more, as technology becomes more and more commoditized, because it's fairly easy for lay people to get involved with how they want to build something out. What Sage's perspective, or what Sage's view on how they will not just build perhaps agentic AI, but how they can help enable accountants build their own agents as well, that might perform specific tasks that are more specialized to a firm, rather than there's going to be some crossover, of course, but is a better stance that you know, rather than Sage taking ownership of all the agentic AI components, or is there some value in allowing accountants to build for themselves, or have some sort of building blocks that they can then configure to allow, you know, more nuanced practices take place within their firm?
Well, if you imagine what agentic AI is in a nutshell, it's following a workflow. It's identifying the jobs, the tasks, and more importantly, performing actions.
Yes.
And those actions are the ones which accountants are wishing that the AI to actually perform, because it's one less job they need to perform. So when you think about the workflows within an accountancy practice, whether it's onboarding, whether it's MTD, whether it's VAT, whether it's compliance, these workflows differ in every practice in terms of where they start, where they end, the amount of involvement they may have from, let's say, other senior people in the accountancy firm. But those steps are really important, because those are the steps which the accountant may wish to, let's say, manipulate, or actually allow the AI to do more. So from our approach, if you look at, let's say, the MTD agent, which we're learning from, let's say, use case in terms of working with accountants, is the fact that though the whole flow can be automated, apart from a little interaction with HMRC, the accountant has full control. They can pause certain activities, they can do the submission themselves, or ultimately, the agent actually...
I think that we may have just lost Chris mid-sentence, which is frustrating. So I think that hopefully we'll give him a second, and let me give him a little message as well. What a live this morning. And here we go. Downing is down. This is not what I expected, but a little. There we are.
Am I back? There we go. There we go. There we go. Yeah.
Like, Downing
Where did you lose me?
Downing is down. Downing is down. No. Okay, so you were talking about the workflow and
workflows control, and when you consider the workflows which an accountant may wish to create, it's a case of providing that template which they can manipulate. Is giving that control. So our primary use case at the moment is delivering those workflows which has the greatest impact, and from that we'll then get the experience, the learnings, and the feedback from accountants in terms of how they would like to manipulate them. So I think it's a bit of a learning story, but also more importantly, we need to showcase the value of AI as well, because though we all see the benefits, how many of us are really using it in an agentic way within our practices?
Yeah, exactly. And I think moving on from the agentic AI for a moment, and more broadly looking again at just some of the enablement of whether it's function, feature, What are you seeing more on the global stage that we're not doing more of in the UK that you would like to bring over to UK businesses? Because Sage is very expansive in other jurisdictions. And I'll give you one example that I think would be really interesting to see, and maybe something that a few years ago, like, especially with the headless API and the embedded services that Sage was creating, there was definitely a lot around how we can enable better, like, whether it's credit scoring or understanding of businesses' payment behavior so that they can improve their lendability within banks. That was something that I think the intention a few years ago was. And I think that, rolling it forward now, we've got reams of data, we've got LLMs to support us in how we understand that data. And I think that one of the things that I sort of see in the global landscape is there's still that evolving need for having cash flow connected in more real time based on the data. So again, I'd just like to understand, is there anything else more broadly that I think we should expect from Sage coming from different parts of the world, or different features or different ways of working?
Definitely.
So, yeah.
I think the big one, when it comes to cash flow or getting paid, the key block to that is actually understanding what invoices need to be paid and having confidence of information. So e-invoicing is that theme. So when you imagine where Sage has priorities, we're currently in Europe, we're in France, they've got the e-invoicing legislation dropping at the moment, and therefore it's a case of we're building the solutions which enable accountants to collaborate with their clients and also small business owners to actually meet the needs of the legislation in that country. So it's a case of we are aware that UK now has e-invoicing on its roadmap. In terms of when it lands, we do not know, but actually that is where we'll see greater benefit for businesses in terms of getting paid, but also removing, let's say, the drudgery of the administration of rekeying information. So I think from a global perspective, that's where our knowledge and experience is coming to the fruition, because not only are we observing how different countries have operated, we can consult and guide UK PLC in terms of what the best practices in terms in bringing invoicing into play, but we already have the technology to hand. So it's a case of actually making sure we all agree how that should be applied, and then making that available in the software solutions, whether that's Sage tools or maybe embedded services, and how the banks wish to consume it.
Very nice. Oh, here we go. Turn that off. Okay, and so tell me more about what else we think that the next kind of quarter, with MTD being so close to D-Day, MTD Day. That's really bad, actually. But what we spoke about this at the awards in particular. So I get really excited here, like agentic AI coming down the track. You've got banks that are being, getting their acts in gear to maybe connect to something that's a headless APIs and then have all of the compliance functions served. Got something that covers like enterprise level right the way to like startup level. But practically speaking, what should we as businesses be preparing for the next 2 quarters when it comes to just being ready and having the ducks in a row? And what are the steps that you think that people should hear and need to take in the next kind of 2 quarters on that?
So from a pure MTD case, April is the deadline to get registered for Making Tax Digital. So just imagine over 800,000 individuals need to either be registered by their accountant through the agent service account, or the 220,000-ish will register themselves. So if you imagine from once 31st of January is over and done with, HMRC will know for definite who should be coming in. So that's 2 months. That's just over 40 working days when nearly 800,000 people will be getting focused on MTD. So part of the messages to accountants is make sure you start early, just get your clients on board, just to avoid, let's say, if you do have a few challenges, you may be able to get some support, because there'll be an awful lot on the helplines. But also, more importantly, when it comes to, let's say, how businesses should be getting ready for Making Tax Digital, I think the key thing is have separation between their business life and their domestic life. Most small businesses have a single bank account, and therefore in that bank account, they can probably have more personal transactions than business transactions. So therefore, spinning up a new business account in advance of April will make life easier in terms of identifying which transactions should be categorized if you're doing it yourself. But if you're working with an accountant or bookkeeper, it will make life easier for them as well. But from an accountant's point of view, I think the real key thing is focus on, let's say, streamlining your practice, focusing on getting a plan together. So we're delivering our next set of roadshows for next week, where we have a practical 100-day plan of actually fast tracking ready for Making Tax Digital. Really practical. No one's done this before. Then also, more importantly, how you use the technology available in terms of the choice of solutions, whether it's doing the bookkeeping internally, collaborating in the cloud with, let's say, Sage Ledgers with the client, or more importantly, enabling clients to think about what they need, whether it's a banking solution, or if they're really simple needs, they can use Sage Individual Free. But that's MTD. We cannot miss the fact that April 2027 is a big date as well. You've got Companies House Reform, the removal of web filing for company accounts. You've got the reporting of the profit and loss account for small limited companies. You've also got payroll changes of benefits in kind. So next year, 2026, is going to be the busiest year we've ever experienced as a profession, delivering the first couple of quarters of MTD and getting ready for other legislation themes, which affects the whole practice. So it's all about refining your workflows, really being inquisitive about what technology is available, and embracing how AI, especially agents, can help support you.
Do we want to take any bets on whether any of those will be delayed?
Payroll benefits kind of already been delayed once, okay? And so far, we're not hearing or seeing any signs of that being deferred again. And if you imagine, we would like to think that HMRC and Treasury all talk to each other as departments. They possibly don't. And when you imagine Companies House, yes, there was, let's say, a little bit of frustration and anxiety about the detailed reporting, which will be taking place from April. There was some noises about, oh, that could be to get changed, but there's been nothing since then, has there? It's been silent. So it's a case of we're not far away from that's happening. And it's a case of if there's been nothing mentioned, one can only assume it is going ahead as intended.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, tell me what things are you personally curious about at the moment in terms of what's going on in our industry? So tell me what are the questions that you're asking yourself, or the things that you're reading up on that other people could really get some insight into themselves, because I think that's something that always helps coming on the live digest, is being able to put yourself out there as well and say, these are the things that are also keeping me awake on a daily basis, apart from your very, very busy schedule, which most people who don't know, if you don't know Chris, it's one of those that color coordinated in different locations, and he makes it work.
One of the advantages of my role is I get to see the whole spectrum of the accounting profession. And quite often when people think about accountants, they're considering firms of 20, 30, 40, 100 people in a large office block with lots of technology. However, that's a small percentage of the profession. 90% of the profession are small practices. And one of my biggest concerns, which doesn't keep me awake at night, but I certainly think about it, is actually when you consider all the additional workload coming down the track, whether that's the uncertainty of, let's say, AML and who's going to be supporting that. Is it going to be institutes or the FCA? When you think about the constant legislation changes, it's adopting brand new technology, like the tax return software has to change. So not only are accountants trying to support their clients, they're thinking about their own practices, they think about profitability. And when you think about a typical firm, could be just one individual, it's a case of how do we actually support them better? How do you give them the insights, make them feel part of a community? Because the profession can be quite lonely, can't it? And it's a case of actually, how do you give that awareness? So it's not just the technology, but it's the insights and the practical aspects of actually making their businesses more profitable, but also giving them the time back. How do you leave the office or your home office on a Friday afternoon feeling that you haven't got, let's say, a pile of emails you need to deal with on a Sunday night? And that is how if we can crack that, then we can actually unlock a huge amount of productivity. Because I have conversations with business owners And it's those business owners, if they're not working with an accountant yet, they're fearful about what the experience is going to be. But when you open up in terms of what else an accountant can do, an accountant can do an awful lot of help, but do they have the capacity to do so? So it's unlocking capacity is the key thing to sort out over the next couple of years.
And I think some of that will be helped by technology. Other parts, I think, is that as the challenge continues to evolve, you picked on AML, for instance, the challenge will continue to evolve. So I think that that's going to probably wreak havoc as well with what we're seeing more of an issue with cybersecurity, deepfakes, and how people are being challenged on access to systems where perhaps it's very difficult and very difficult to distinguish. So I wonder, I mean, that's one thing that keeps me awake. And I do think that that's going to be a challenge that most technology companies face, especially those who house valuable data or have links to bank accounts. How does Sage see that in terms of how they are but focusing any kind of attention or resource to it?
From our research, from the key themes which always comes out is that trust, and that trust in the data, where it's kept and how it's been managed. And when you see how the profession is evolving, so the profession isn't just becoming more digitized, you're becoming the gatekeepers and the holders of even more important data, especially if business owners are encouraged or requesting the profession to make payments on behalf of their suppliers. And it's a case of data, where it is, who has access to it, who's holding it, what happens when something goes wrong, is just as top of mind in terms of all the other administration. So I think what we will be seeing, accountants are fantastic change makers. When they see something exciting, they grab hold of it and want to do something with it, because it's all about efficiency. But also when you think about the benefits which AI brings, or collating information, or encouraging businesses to be more digital, naturally with that, it's that nervousness in terms of, where is the data flowing? Do I have the right security in place? Am I working with the right partner? I can flow data seamlessly with all these fantastic apps, which saves me time. But actually, how much data are they really taking? When was the last time we actually looked at the T's and C's of our favorite mobile phone device to understand how that information has been shared? So data security trust is certainly top of mind in the age in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think it will continue to evolve as we also see, as you said, where the data is stored. And we saw last week the issues with the AWS access being infringed. And I know it impacted quite a few different softwares. Obviously, it also impacted HMRC, which is more questionable in terms of where that data storage should have really, how it should have impacted. Because I think there will definitely be a bit of a volatile environment for the next few years as we see AI continues to evolve. So I'll be really curious to see how Sage continues to also keep pace with that, because I think that everyone is sort of watching and waiting to see where they should put a lot more of their commitment to different softwares. And I think in particular when it comes to this topic on MTD and seeing the connection between the bank and the software, absolutely joined up and seamless. I think this is a great momentum, and it will be even better seeing how that evolves as you continue to bring on more financial providers into Sage with your headless APIs and embedded services. Thank you.
I missed that question. I lost the signal for 10 seconds.
Oh, no worries. I was actually just saying it's okay. Great to see it evolving. So thank you for joining us on this, Chris. And I know that you are going straight from one recording into another. So we won't keep you, but thank you for coming on and sharing some updates on MTD, Monzo, also more broadly in the space. And so we'll look forward to catching you on our next one.
Thank you for inviting me. Have a great day.
Thanks.